So we're gonna give everybody a few more minutes as they make their way in. So we'll get started in about 3 to 5 minutes here. If you haven't picked up lunch, please, plenty of lunches out in the lobby for you, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. Thanks, everyone. Okay, if everybody wants to make their way to their seats, we're going to go ahead and get started momentarily.
I don't think anybody had much fun this session.
All right, well, can't say good morning anymore, but good afternoon and happy Monday. Welcome to the regional building for today's Regional Transit Advisory Panel meeting. My name is Bob Crum. I'm your executive director here at the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission and the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization. And I would like to just start this meeting by once again, as I always do, just thanking you for your continued commitment, for your attendance at these meetings, but most importantly, for your participation at these meetings and what you do when you leave this room in terms of being good advocates for strengthening public transit in the Hampton Roads region. As we always do, what I'd like to start off with is just go around the room and allow a little bit of time for introductions. Why don't I start to my left and ask Pavitra to start off. Before we continue, real quick, you'll look down and you'll see two buttons on your microphone. If you press the one on the right with the person, it will come red. When it's red, it's live. What I would ask is when it's your time to speak, please go ahead and make it red and live. When you're done, go ahead and turn it off. We are live streaming the meeting for our residents at home that are interested in today's conversation and couldn't make it today. So Pavitra, over to you.
Good afternoon, Pavitra Parthasarathy, HRTPO.
Good afternoon, Matt Scully, Executive Director, Williamsburg Area Transit Authority.
Ben Goodall, Director of Planning Administration for Williamsburg Area Transit Authority.
Maria Tukowski with Suffolk Transit.
Susan Gaston with the Williamsburg Area Association of Realtors and the Hampton Roads Sanitation District.
Joe Frummo with the Virginia Ship Repair Association.
Quan McLaurin with the HRPDC, HRTPO.
Janice Taylor with the League of Women Voters Paratransit Advisory Committee and Centera Stroke Support Group in TBI.
Hello, I'm Craig Baller, representing the city of Williamsburg.
Good afternoon, Sandra Brandt with Step Up Incorporated.
Good afternoon, Sarah Jane Kirkland with Old Dominion University.
Ellen Ruan with VBHA.
Hi there. It's my pleasure to serve as the CEO of the Planning Council.
Good morning, Linda Peck from Greater Norfolk Corporation.
Good morning, Aaron Clark with DRPT, Program Manager.
Good morning, Avery Darty, also with DRPT. Good to be with you.
Karen Kitsis, Chief Planning and Development Officer, HRT.
Good afternoon, Noelle Pinkert, Organizational Advancement Officer for Hampton Roads Transit.
Good afternoon, Amy Brazel, Director of Contracted Services and Operational Analytics with Hampton Roads Transit.
Good afternoon, Benjamin Sims, Chief Operating Officer for Hampton Roads Transit.
Good afternoon, Mark Geduldig Yatrovsky, immediate past Chair of the Community Advisory Committee.
Good afternoon, Jada Aldegon, Government Commission Relations Intern with Hampton Roads Transit.
Good afternoon, I'm John Wiley, and I serve as the Chair of WHRO's Next Gen Collective.
Good afternoon. I'm Jerry Wilson. I'm with the City of Newport News.
And I'm Rob Case, the Chief Transportation Engineer here at the HRTPO.
Hello, I'm Andrew Pease, Project Manager with Arcadis.
Hello, I'm Stephen Florian, Hampton Roads Transit Technology.
Good afternoon. I'm Casey Roberts, Executive Vice President for Strategy and Development for Versability Resources.
Good afternoon, everyone. Greg Rotendorst, HRPDC.
Hello, Stephanie Gorham with United Way of Southampton Roads.
Hi there, Mary Kate Andrus, President and CEO of Civic Leadership Institute.
Hello, Kendra Green, Executive Director, Elizabeth River Trail Foundation.
Hello, I'm Matthew Harrington with the HRTPO.
Good afternoon, John Mahaley with the HRTPO as well.
Peter Shaw, retired TCC Professor Emeritus of Business, and I'm sitting here because Bob can keep an eye on me.
Let's go around the next.
Good afternoon. I'm Sabrina Howe. I am with VDOT in the Hampton Roads District, and I'm filling in for Crystal Mitzi.
Okay, very good. Did I miss anyone who came in afterwards? I'm sorry, Mary Kate. Okay, very, very good. Hello, Dr. Hammond, how are you? Come on in. So what I would like to start with is we're going to mix things up just a little bit today before we jump into the main part of our agenda. It struck me as I was talking to Met Klepeyes, that does a lot of photography today, that we do not have a group photo of the RTAP. So if I could ask your patience for just a couple of minutes, I'd like to ask Matt made his way up to the top of the building. What I'd like everybody to do is go ahead and go on out to the lobby and make a left. And what we're going to do is we're going to set you up out in the parking lot with a group photo, and Matt will be taking that from on top of our building. So if I could please ask, we'd love everybody there, staff included. So let's.
There we go. Good, how are you doing? Good morning. Costume. Yeah. Lisa through the
All right. Yeah, everybody did great. All right. Well, just a little different way to start a meeting, right? So maybe we'll make that our tradition. We'll get up and run around the building one time before we get started with our RTAP meetings, right? All right. So let's go ahead and begin our agenda. The first item is approval of the agenda. I'll quickly review the agenda to be certain there are no additions today. We're first going to hear a presentation on Cell 250, which we think is a really timely issue. As you know, over the next several months, the world will be coming to Hampton Roads, and how we move a lot of people around is going to be a really important issue for us. So we're going to start off with that briefing. From there, the Unified Fare Study that you've been updated on a couple of times. Our consultant is ready to give the latest on that Unified Fare Study. So Andrew, look forward to your continued discussion with our RTAP. From there, Hampton Roads Transit's going to have a series of updates for us. You're going to hear about their on-demand rideshare service. You're going to hear about their sustainability study. Noelle promises some reports from the General Assembly, so I'll help her out as need be on that. And then an update on a couple of other planning efforts for HRT, including their procurement study for their Connecting Chesapeake study. So looking forward to that. And then Matt Harrington from our team is going to bring it home with some regional mapping on transit service frequencies across the Hampton Roads region. Does anyone have any additions to today's agenda? Could I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented, please?
So moved.
Mr. Chair.
Second?
Second.
All right. See that photo, everybody's ready to go. See that? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Fantastic. Public comments. Anyone who would like to address the RTAP membership today? Seeing none, let's go down to the minutes. Our last meeting was on December 17th. Jeff Roliski, thank you for your work preparing those minutes. Any changes to the minutes as presented? Seeing none, could I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, so let's jump into the exciting part. So really excited to have Mr. John Hazlitt with us today to give our regional transit panel some information on SAIL 250 and what we can expect over the next several months, particularly the focus for today that you'll want to be thinking about in terms of how we move people relative to transportation. Okay.
All right, we're good. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I will try to give you as thorough and as short a period of time as I can review on this. If you have been in the Hampton Roads area for any period of time, you may recall two OpSail events. It was OpSail 2000 and then again OpSail 2012. And this is bigger and better than both of those, as this event is going to combine not just the anniversary of America, but also it's the 50th anniversary of Harborfest and Juneteenth celebration all rolled into one. So it's a pretty expansive event that's going to cover multiple jurisdictions in the Commonwealth. I have no intention of reading this to you, but this event is national. Obviously, it's a national event that will be drawing countries from all over the world coming to primarily the Hampton Roads area because Norfolk is the deep water port. Is the host city of multiple jurisdictions that will be participating in this. This continues. I had mentioned the OpSail events, the International Maritime and Military event. This event this year has the added feature of the United States Navy involvement with a Fleet X operation, where there'll be gray hull ships, military vessels that will be coming in from around the world as well to participate in military exercises as a part of this. Not necessarily the entire, they'll be in here a little bit before that, but it is part of that operation. You can see the highlighted events that are going on. The anticipated visitors over 3 million to the Commonwealth, and the operating budget. You can see all those items. Parade of Sail. I'm going to get into the details of the actual event, kind of step-by-step process that will be going on with docking locations and throughout the area. And then eventually we'll get into HRT is obviously a major player in any event that has happened, whether it be Sale 250 or the previous op sale events. So this gives you just some idea of the organizational structure. There'll be an image that will show up here shortly. The first of the events will start in New Orleans, and then they come to Virginia, Baltimore, New York, and Boston for the July 4th celebration that will be actually in Boston. Then Norfolk Fest Events is it's the organization within Sale 250 that is organizing it. And you can see there's a variety of work groups there, and security and transportation are one because especially with what's going on in the world now, it is the security aspect has really taken center stage. This is the image I was just referring to. You can see the dates for the where it starts in New Orleans, and then the ships will leave there and come to the Hampton Roads area. And you'll also see in particular it's over 2 weekends. You'll see all the jurisdictions involved. It goes, there will be ships in Alexandria, Hampton, on the Eastern Shore, Richmond, Isle of Wight, and then a lot of those ships, as you may recall from Harbor Fest past, there's a big parade of sail. So those, the vessels that come in early after that event, such as the Blackbeard's Pirates Festival in Hampton, many of them will go on up to Baltimore, but most of them will go out to Anchorage, and they will participate in the massive parade of sail that'll take place on the 18th. And you can see those jurisdictions, and Virginia Beach's in participation mostly is from the Anchorage standpoint on the 18th and 19th. Again, the Eastern Shore is involved, Chesapeake, Portsmouth, Norfolk, and the Northern Neck. This gives you a little bit more detail as far as where each one of them are, as noted by the stars, and again the dates that where they will take place. That's the information for the website. There'll be a lot more information that I can have time to share with you today. All of that information there is for you, and a lot of those websites the main website is already active. Each one of the jurisdictions has a separate page, and you can go to that particular jurisdiction, and they'll have details about their particular activities that will be going on for that. It's all under the umbrella of Sale 250, although each locality, they refer to as an affiliate harbor, they will have their own kind of named to that. And I know I was just over in Cape Charles last week, and Cape Charles's event is called Sail Fest. So it's a little variation of that. I mentioned these are the types of ships. There'll be the tall ships as well as foreign ships, both government and private as well. This is an indication of the ships that have accepted the invitation to come. These are the government ships. These are all confirmed that will be here, and you will see the nation in which they represent. Private ships, many of those, the private vessels are smaller and character vessels there, and those are the ones that will go into the smaller ports that can accommodate the larger tall ships. This is just an indication of this is a Fleet X. Gives you some of the information as far as the dates and how that's going to work, how long they'll be here, and their participation in the overall Sale 250 event. Again, this is the details of the ships and the nations that will be coming to the Naval Station Norfolk. and they will be all participating in those military exercises. So this is probably the main one of the main pages here to go through. Gives you really kind of the timing on how this is going to work, starting on Thursday the 18th. The parade of sail is Friday the 26th. And as the ships come in, there will be, as you'll notice, a Blue Angels flyover over the Hampton Roads area to obviously be seen from everywhere. One other part that's a little bit different for this event this year as opposed to past is that there will be fireworks both Friday and Saturday night, where Harborfest has always just had them on Saturday. So we're expecting that will always will draw larger crowds. And Saturday and Sunday's activities. Friday, going back, Friday, of course, is Juneteenth, and there'll be programming related to that celebration. And then Saturday, the fireworks, Sunday, and Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the last of the ships will depart Wednesday. We were able to get the Carnival cruise people to delay. They have a cruise ship coming back that was due back on Monday. And we were able to work with them and get that delayed a day till most of the ships will be gone, at least at the Nauticus Pier for that to happen. This is an image that really shows you the Anchorage area and what's involved, what the Pilot Association has to work with as far as having all these ships, and they're all identified there out at Lynn Haven out off the Lesnar Bridge. One other point I'll just mention as we get to the parade of sail, which this shows, it's about 26 nautical miles from Lynn Haven as it crosses the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, around the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, and then down the Elizabeth River. We worked with VDOT, State Police, all law enforcement agencies. We've found in the past with some of these events that our motorists have a tendency to want to stop along the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel and Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel to see, because as the ships come in under full sail, it is a sight to see. And this is a really kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity. So a couple of years, I think it was 2012, we were able to work out special arrangements where at the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, people could go out actually to the islands and do that. But because of the construction, that's not available to us for this event. This is another image of that, of the parade of sail. How it'll go. This will show you kind of the docking in the downtown area. From the MHI docks up around Fort Norfolk down to in the Harbor Park area in downtown. Port military operations work. This just gives you an indication of all the agencies that are involved. Again, to my previous comment about with the state of the world, and with the Fleet X operation, there is a close working relationship with the Navy security as far as how this is supposed to, how this is going to happen. There has been conversations about opening the ships up for public visitation, actually on the naval base, and that is still a work in progress as to whether that's even going to be able to happen or not. So it's stay tuned, as they say. We will be running. If that happens, we will be running shuttle buses out to the naval base for that visitation to happen. These will give you just an indication of all of the various groups that I mentioned, and how we're working with. We've been working with HRT in particular on what levels of service are going to be able to be provided as far as the light rail, the ferry service, and regular line service. So there is not going to be, at this point, there will not be any park and ride services offered, as was done in some previous Harbor Fest years ago. But we think that with the parking that's available downtown and the services that that HRT can provide, that there's ample to be able to handle that. And that is a quick review, and I'm happy to try to field any questions. If it's about the operation, anything other than transportation and security, I'm not sure I'll have an answer for you, but I'll do my best. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Mr. Haslett. And thank you for the presentation. I'm Kendra. I'm the executive director of the Elizabeth River Trail Foundation. The Elizabeth River Trail, 6.5 miles of our 10.5 mile trail is activated for Sail 250. We, of course, have been briefed briefly on Sail 250. I don't see us even listed as an active partner. We have tried, in many ways to be as involved as possible and have been kind of relegated to the education tent. But we are transportation. I'm not trying to be confrontational here in this meeting,
I appreciate that.
But we are transportation. And, in any way that you can guide me in being the official walking partner of Sail 250, there is really no way to engage in Sail 250 without the trail. So we want to be as involved as possible. My very small nonprofit team is working very hard to make the trail as beautiful as possible for this huge once-in-a-lifetime event. And we just want to get to the right people and be as involved as possible.
I will take that message back. I know that there has been conversation about the Elizabeth River Trail. I know that if you've been briefed, hopefully you know a little bit about, for those of you that are familiar with that downtown area, the bulk of the ships were going to be, around Nauticus, Bush and Main, the Town Point area, but there will be ships berthed along the way and up to Front Street. And of course, that's a connection. And so there's a way for people to, they can interface as far as light rail at the Colley Avenue station. If they want to take from Newtown Road, they could start there and then take the trail and walk from there around past Noah, all the way back around to downtown. So, but I hear you loud and clear, and I will ask if I can get your contact information before I leave, which is going to be as soon as I'm through. I would be happy to communicate that with somebody today.
Very good.
Yes, ma'am.
Other questions? Dr.
Yes.
K.
You held your hand up. Okay.
Go ahead, Dr. K.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the presentation. I've been doing some deep dive into understanding the connection of this festival with Juneteenth.
Yes, ma'am.
And I want to preface this by saying that I come from a military family. My grandfather was in the Navy. My uncle was in the Army. I definitely am a very proud citizen of the United States of America. I also am a person of African descent, like many of the citizens of Hampton Roads, particularly in Norfolk, right? So I'm curious, so the other thing I want to say to preface this is that I understand that tall ships mean different things to different people, right? And so I'm curious, you showed on the festival map in Norfolk several businesses that are partnered in Norfolk. I don't know what's happening around. I know that there's some things happening in Fort Monroe and other parts of the country and of Hampton Roads. Is there any intentional effort to ensure African-American participation, particularly and especially because a large part of this event is on Juneteenth? Because as I look at your festival map, one of my concerns is that there are no Black-owned businesses on this festival map. And so I'm curious if there is any intentional effort to ensure that the African-American and Black population, particularly because it's Juneteenth, are intentionally included in this celebration of our country and of Juneteenth simultaneously.
I don't know that I can fully answer that, but I can tell you that I do know that is the case, that there are intentional efforts. And I know that it is primarily each jurisdiction is taking the lead in there as far as how they do that. I don't know if, I can't speak to the fact of whether the Sail 250 is the umbrella organization for this, and incorporated all local jurisdictions in together to invite them into the umbrella without saying, this is what you need to do. So each jurisdiction, and I know that I've attended many meetings, and I know that there have been times that in particular, as far as the city of Norfolk, that there's been multiple conversations about what that's going to look like. I don't think that the entire program has even been established yet. So I think once that comes out, I know they just had a press release last week and announced the headliner acts for Harborfest, for the Norfolk. But each one of the affiliate harbors, if you go to the Sail 250 website, you can go to each jurisdiction and see what in particular they're doing. That's a little bit outside of my role in trying to move people to those areas. But as far as the programming, if there's a particular interest in any one jurisdiction, there are points of contact with each one that you could reach out to get that information.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm sorry that I can't give you a more specific answer.
Okay, no problem. Thank you for that answer. As the chair, I have a recommendation that I'm asking that you take back to the committee, particularly in Norfolk, right? I can't speak for the rest of, this is, you're showing us the businesses in Norfolk, particularly downtown Norfolk. There are several Black-owned businesses by the Slover, by Granby. I'm asking that you all consider intentionally including those businesses on this list.
I will do it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. K. Matt?
Thank you. Again, I'm with the Williamsburg Area Transit Authority. Can you describe a little bit more what's happening at Yorktown? Dates and activities and anticipated crowds.
I don't have the details on that with me. I apologize. The dates were on the slide that we blew through. Is there a way for me to go back to that? Yeah. You got to go further back. There we go. Thank you. So Yorktown is obviously you can see is the 12th through the 14th. And if you were to go, and again, I hate to keep deflecting to the website, but there hasn't been much conversation that I have had with anybody in Yorktown and or Williamsburg about how to connect. So at this point, I don't know. I can get you a point of contact with Yorktown for sure, and we can start a conversation.
No, thank you. We have that already. We've
Okay.
been tied into some of their planning for it as
Okay.
well. Just wanted to see if you had any more details for us.
At this point, I do not.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes. Kendra?
Sorry, Bob. I have one more comment, sir, and then I promise I'll let you off the hook. But I had the initial briefing again on the scope in which this festival would impact the trail months and months ago. But I was only notified 2 weeks ago, and this was just a casual comment by the education person, which is the only person I've been talking to. Absolutely no bikes allowed on the 6.5 miles of my trail during this whole event. And that's the first I'm hearing about it. And I asked what provisions have been taken to then notify these thousands. There are no bikes, and there didn't really seem to be a clear plan on that. So are there, bike docking stations on either side of the 6.5 miles? I mean, I just feel very out of the transportation loop, and that's important
Right.
for this.
The only thing I can say about that is that there is in particular about Norfolk, there is a festival area that is designated by the city attorney's office. And within that festival area, there are traffic restrictions, there are street closures, there are a variety of things from that. Those details have not yet been clarified, but as a part of that, there's also restrictions on electric bikes, other types of bicycles, Uber, Lyft, the Lime scooters and all that, to restrict access within the area where there's a heavy concentration of pedestrians for safety reasons. So those details are still in the final stages of being worked out. That's a note I will add to make sure that you can get some clarification on that. You're welcome.
Next comment, please, Janet.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for the presentation. It's very good. I have a question about accessibility. Has that been factored in the equation for all the events?
I'm sorry, I couldn't make out everything. Would you say accessibility?
Accessibility
For
people that are disabled
for the disabled.
population.
Well, there are certain things that with these tall ships that are going to be a real challenge for people that are disabled to be able to, because most of these ships anyway, I should say, when they're docked, there'll be periods of time that they'll be open for visitation. And I know that the Navy has already advised me that if they do public visitation of the gray hulls on the naval base, there will be no accessibility for any disabled. I know that for a fact, primarily because of just the nature of the vessel itself, the gangways and how to get up to those levels.
John, could you speak to accessibility for individuals with disabilities that maybe might not want to be on the ship itself, but want to be able to move around and be able to see the vistas and the view sheds and watch the
Sure.
ships? It sort of goes to Kendra's comment about the bikeway and just giving people a fair opportunity to be able to get close to the water.
Well, I mean, there's going to be those opportunities, and a lot of it's going to be the accessibility is going to probably be driven as much by the time of day because of the crowds, because it's all not necessarily. There are sidewalks in the. I'm speaking particularly about downtown Norfolk. There are sidewalks and there are wheelchair ramps and whatnot. However, when you get into the park with high numbers of pedestrian traffic, they're all wheelchair accessible, and people will be able to should be able to navigate around. It may be a little challenging from time to time, but the capability is certainly there.
I have one more question out of curiosity. Do you have someone on the planning committee who specializes in accessibility and planning and support for people with mobile disabilities?
I'm not sure, to be very honest with you. It comes up I guess it would be addressed on a case-by-case basis. But other than trying to address it based on how I just explained regarding the potential conflicts with the high number of how crowded it is, certainly provides some challenges for that.
May I make another recommendation?
Sure.
For you to take back to the committee? I like to be solution bearing. The encouragement is, as you all continue to plan to have someone or a group of people that are specifically have training on how to ensure accessibility. As you know, a lot of veterans are disabled. I think being more intentional about how we ensure that they have accessibility to these events, I think would be very advantageous.
Okay, thank you for that. I will say that from my experience, I worked with the city of Norfolk for many years in traffic engineering, and then went with the school system, was director of transportation, and we dealt with dealing with wheelchair buses and students with disabilities. Did that for 20 years, so I'm very familiar with that. I can tell you that we will be running some internal shuttles using school buses, and we are already planning to make sure that we have wheelchair buses available. So if anyone that is disabled that needs that service, that will be available for them.
Any other questions, comments? John, what I would like to do after the meeting is connect you with a few people on
Sure.
this panel, so that you're able to follow up as needed. So I'll send Mr. Hazlett an email. Dr. K, I'd like to connect you on it. Certainly want to be certain that we're connected related individuals with disabilities and those accessibility issues, Kendra, from the trail perspective. Okay, so we'll try to help make those connections for you a bit.
Happy to do it.
And I think you'll find that everybody here, obviously you're one person of a committee, but if you could connect them with the right people on that committee, I think you have folks here willing to lean in and prepare as best that we can as a
That'd be
community.
great. Yeah.
Mayor Glover, I know Portsmouth's going to be part of the host for this event. Any thoughts or comments from Portsmouth's perspective?
Well, thank you, Bob. No, but first of all, we're excited about Sail 250 in very deep preparation. I just met with our team last week, so looking forward to celebrating the birthday of our country.
How did the transit systems feel from HRT to Suffolk to WADA? Any thoughts? Obviously, a lot of people coming to our region are going to want to move around, and many of them coming from different places where use of public transportation is probably going to be a big part of their plans. So just curious how you're all feeling with preparations.
John has been in touch with us early. I think we heard from him before officially from the city. I think the city is still evaluating exactly what it wants to ask for from us as far as service, but I imagine, particularly because of the 2 fireworks days, to running additional service on the Saturday of Harborfest with running trains, running all the trains essentially that we have in the evening, afternoon and evening, and then having buses that as they fill up in Newtown and then coming downtown and then waiting, and then once the influx of the hard part is you have people that kind of come in over a longer period of time. They all want to leave at the same time, and so once the fireworks are done, so the buses will also be there. We anticipate will also be there to help back up the train that's running. So that's an additional ferry service as well that Amy could speak to, like we do for Tides games or other events. So I think do we run that level of service both on Friday and Saturday? So we're waiting to get the official word from the city of Norfolk on that. We're excited. I think right now too, another element of our staff that's been engaged has been on the security front. I know there's been a lot of questions, especially since our most recent military engagement overseas about what that looks like. So our staff are in participation on some of those committees and are actively engaged in that as well.
Thank you. Anything else from HRT? Suffolk or WADA, anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, so thank you. As the premier transit authority for the historic triangle, we are much more focused, of course, on the full, Virginia and national 250 celebrations. So it actually lines up well with our own strategic plan of increased frequency to 30 minutes on some of our key routes along the spine of the peninsula. And the nature of my question specifically to Yorktown was part of the strategic plan is extending our route 11 Lackey all the way to Yorktown. And so there's an opportunity here for us to perhaps be able to do it in time for this.
Great. Maria, anything to add to that? Or all right. Any other questions?
You have another
I
question
do.
over here.
Yeah, yes.
Is it possible in part of the planning that the three cities present Williamsburg, Suffolk, and of course here with HRT, that they can coordinate the marketing departments to put up materials for the paratransit community so that we do know the transportation is there. And for people coming from other cities that need paratransit, they will know that we exist.
Absolutely.
John, would
Yeah.
you like to, is that a possibility you could coordinate with the cities? on
I think
that?
so. I believe we can. And again, I think that's a lot of that will be with to develop the needs and all that as far as part of the PR work that'll go out through the website and PSAs and whatnot leading up to the event. Yes.
And thank you for WADA. I think what we can do, though we're tied in very well with Visit Williamsburg and they help promote our services, I think specifically for the paratransit would be helpful. Thank you.
Good. All right. John, thank you so much for
Absolutely.
being here today and for giving us this briefing.
Yes, sir.
And as I said, I will follow up with an email to make some connections with the people who had some thoughts for you today.
Look
So
forward to getting it from you.
Very
Great.
good. Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much.
Thank you.
And thank you, RTAP, for that discussion. All right, let's move on to the Unified Fare Study. You all will recall Andrew Peace, the project manager for this project, has given you a couple of updates as the project was kicked off and continues to advance. And Andrew, we're anxious to see what the latest is on what we think is going to be a great regionally coordinated effort.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah, hi everyone. It's nice to be back. Good to see you all again. My name is Andrew Pease. I'm a project manager with Arcadis, who has been heading up with HRT, WADA, and Suffolk Transit this Hampton Roads Unified Fare Study. I know I've been here providing updates across the past year to you all about our project progress, and I'm happy to be here today. We're getting near the close to the end of our project here, our conceptual study, and I wanted to share with you the results and the things that we've come up with. So, oh, I'm sorry. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, in terms of just a quick agenda, so some of this is going to be a recap for you, but we wanted to remind you what the parameters of this project are and where what types of activities we've gone through over the past year or so. So I wanted to remind you all of that. So we'll do a quick project recap. We'll go over the project activities, but then we'll really dig into the details on the preferred alternatives. These would be the alternatives that we have as a project team come up with and that we'd like to share with you today as a result of our study. Those alternatives come with various technology requirements as well as future needs. So we want to share those with you as well, and then think about what next steps might be. So in terms of a project recap, so just the framework of the project, the project participation. So we have the transit agency participants. Those are Hampton Roads Transit, WADA, and Suffolk Transit. We've been collaborating all together for the entirety of this project, formed a really good working group, and have been advancing this all along as a team. And Arcadis, I'm with Arcadis, so we've been leading this on the consulting side. And I'm the project manager. I've been a transportation, specifically a transit planner, for almost 20 years, and I've been joined by other professionals on my team who specialize in the areas of fare technology and also fare policy, transit fare policy. So in terms of project purpose and goals, really the main purpose of this project was to help identify strategies for better connecting the three agencies across the region to help people more easily make interagency trips. And one aspect of that is enabling or creating some type of fare payment system that helps people make those trips more easily. Currently, if you wanted to make an interagency trip, as many of you probably know, you would need to pay separate fares using separate processes on each agency. That can be a bit challenging and detrimental for people who want to travel across the region, make a transit trip. So the whole purpose of this is to identify strategies for solving that problem. In addition, as a whole part of that, we want to examine any kind of technological, institutional, administrative, political barriers that might exist between the three agencies, so that we can help get over those and provide a more seamless transit experience for those who need it in the region. Resulting from all of that has been the development of alternatives. That's what we want to share with you today. These alternatives would help eliminate those barriers that I just mentioned and focus on unifying the fare structures in a more strategic and effective way. But really throughout the course of all of this, very important to note is the overall guiding principle that We really want to make sure the three agencies, no matter what we come up with, remain autonomous. So whatever alternatives we proposed and we looked at respected the autonomy of the three agencies: financial, administrative, political. Obviously, when you talk about fair integration and making fair payment easier for people, an alternative would be to have just one agency for the whole region. That was not on the table for this. We were really focusing on a solution that would work for the three agencies as they currently exist today. And one other thing to point out, I know I mentioned it on the first bullet there, but the focus of this project has been on fixed route services for Hampton Roads Transit. So Williamsburg, WADA, and Suffolk. So I know questions have been asked in the past about how paratransit plays into this. Really, for this study, we've been focusing on solutions for fixed route, and paratransit could potentially be a next step in this process. So just want to be clear on that. So RTAP, you've been involved in this from the get-go, so that's been really helpful. And just as a quick reminder, we've been leaning on you to making sure you're aware of what activities are going on, our milestones. You've helped provide periodic input about our findings, parameters, direction when I've come out here to share this information with you all before. And then you've been helping us deliver insights about what the regional needs might be, any concerns, questions you might have, thinking of regional needs. Another thing we've been asking for your help on, which you've been doing, is helping us advocate for this and helping advance this project in general through your ongoing coordination. So we appreciate that. Okay, so just this is going to be a bit of a reminder, also an update on our project activities. So last time we were here, I think we got through about number 3, which was looking at our fare policy alternatives. Since then, we've conducted a technology analysis, and we've been able to identify some alternatives as potential ones that would be preferred and recommended. So right now, we're putting those together into a final alternatives analysis, and we'll be developing a final report that can be distributed and presented to the public as needed. A key piece of the puzzle in number 5 is this meeting, sharing this with all of you to see what kind of questions and thoughts you might have, so we can incorporate that input as necessary. So just this is kind of a reminder. This was early in the project. We started it all with a needs assessment. So this was basically an evaluation of all the various aspects of the fare payment environment, the transit fare structures that exist in this region across the 3 separate agencies. So to kind of start this process, we needed to know what the 3 different systems are across the 3 agencies, what types of fares they offer, what reduced fare payment policies they might have, and really just to generate that foundation for the fare study to understand what synergies exist across the 3 agencies, where the disconnects might exist, and how we might work with all of that to develop something that could potentially work for the riders of all 3 agencies. Another thing we did as a part of the needs assessment was try to determine what the actual demand, the current demand is for interagency trip making. So there's a lot of numbers here. Really the most important is that one on the far bottom right-hand side under percent of total. So what that's showing us is if you think of all transit agency ridership across the region, on an annual basis, only 0.5% of trips made are interagency. So that's an entire year across the whole region. So that's showing us that currently there's not a whole lot of interagency trip making being conducted by transit riders. Now, some of that is lack of demand for it. Alternatively, some of it might be because it's difficult to make trips like that, so people don't do it. It's a mix of the two, but this does help us understand how the level of urgency in addressing this and coming up with a solution to help with this. So knowing that only 0.5% of the total ridership currently are by folks navigating these interagency trips, navigating these different fare payment systems, processes, et cetera, that helps us kind of get an understanding of the urgency of next steps and what to do next. I'm not going to get into the details on this, but just sharing that we went through a full needs assessment. Like I said before, we did our best to identify synergies between different policies, fare mechanisms. So across the 3 different agencies, this kind of shows how we went through this process to see where synergies exist and where gaps are. Another part of the framework of this, and to help us better understand what types of alternatives we might want to propose, we conducted an industry scan, really a peer review, looking at peer regions, Hampton Roads peer regions that might lend us some interesting information about what could be done in this area, what solutions might exist. So we looked at different, what we called statistical peers. Those would be peers that would line up with a region in terms of numbers of population, et cetera, or numbers of transit riders as well. But then we also looked at what we're calling aspirational peers, and these actually were a bit more relevant to us. These were peers who actually do have, peer regions who actually do have interagency fare systems in place, so they could lend us some details about how that works for them, what the different solutions are, what types of hurdles they had to jump over to get there, et cetera, et cetera. And also among aspirational peers, we wanted to look at areas that were similar, kind of a similar political/jurisdictional administrative environment to what Hampton Roads offers. And I know I mentioned this before, but Hampton Roads obviously is a bit unique. You have numerous, you don't have one, main jurisdiction that's running the show. You have numerous cities who work to collaborate together, and have similar levels of political influence here. So we wanted to identify some places that offered that as well. So in doing that, we identified 3 that we really focused in on. Tampa Bay region in Florida, obviously made up of multiple jurisdictions there, Tampa and St. Petersburg and Clearwater, the Twin Cities in Minnesota, and Montreal as well. Each of these regions were valuable in that they did aspirationally and somewhat statistically line up with the types of transit mobility environment you have here in Hampton Roads. But maybe more importantly, each of them offered a different type of fare unification example for us to look at. For example, Tampa Bay offers like an interagency app and pass products. In Minnesota, they offer just free transfers between all of their different transit systems. And then in Montreal, it doesn't matter what agency you're riding, they've developed a zone-based fare system. So these are, and what I'm trying to say is these are 3 very different ways to approach fare unification. And by looking at all of these 3 different peers, we were able to better understand how those work and what would be most applicable to the agencies in this region. Not some, but not many. It's not extremely common, and I'll get there. Based on our analysis, it seemed a bit challenging for this region as well, but it's not extremely common in North America, but they do it there, and there are examples of it elsewhere too. Even in the Washington, D.C. area, when you use Metro, they used to have, distance-based fares on Metro, which is similar. They've since moved away from that for some of the reasons, some of the challenges we encounter when looking at that too, but yeah. All right, and so moving beyond that, after looking at the needs assessment, after focusing in on the peer analysis, understanding what we could from those various peer examples, what we conducted an identification and analysis of various fare policy alternatives. So we came up with a long list of them. They're not all shown here, but what this highlights are the ones that we did advance for analysis. And I think this is where we left off last time. So you can see there were 4 we really looked at. That would be free region-wide interagency transfers, paying a special transfer fare when switching from one agency to another instead of paying the full new transit agency fare once you get on a different vehicle. Coming up with a regional transit pass that would provide you unlimited rides across the 3 agencies, or having a separate transit fare payment app that you would use regionally across the 3 different agencies. So those are the 4 we looked at, and we tried to separate them out on a scale. It's kind of shown there with a general trade-off of promoting rider seamlessness versus promoting agency autonomy. And really, we landed on the ones that did their best to provide a balance between those 2 factors, and were also potentially the most feasible for implementation in this region. So after doing all that, we put together some preferred alternatives as a group. So this was our project team, representatives of the 3 different transit agencies, as well as the consulting team. So this is what we came up with as our potential preferred alternatives and wanted to share them with you. So this just shows you the kind of process we went through for determining our preferred alternatives, how we conducted the comparative analysis. This is very generalized, but you can see with the different colors, the different scenarios that we tested. I mentioned those previously, and a whole wide variety of factors going down the left-hand side. Wanted to gauge how each of them would perform in each of those categories. So we conducted analysis based on each of these categories indicated in each of these rows here, to try to highlight visually, which ones popped the most in terms of compatibility and favorability. I will say, though, that there were certain areas of this that were weighted more heavily than other factors, that kind of lent more, were more informative to us about what would be most effective. The key row I can mention that was weighted more heavily than the others is implementability, right on the bottom there. Really, we wanted to make sure that whatever we recommend is something that could feasibly be advanced across the 3 agencies, something that riders in the region could feasibly use and actually benefit from, and something that would be generally acceptable region-wide. So you can see that one green box in that category. You kind of see where I'm going here, but that kind of held up as an important one compared with the rest. So at any rate, in terms of defining the preferred alternatives, what we did was we defined a short-term and a longer-term preferred alternative to share with you all. So the shorter term one really would be just a no build. We saw before that there is not a huge demand currently for interagency trips. While it exists, we did not identify a large number of riders who are currently having trouble navigating this system right now. So based on this, we feel like the status quo could be acceptable in the short term, since there isn't a huge demand for that. But also understanding that whatever we do put into place would be a brand new type of regional partnership between the 3 agencies. And so therefore time is needed for advancing and improving and implementing any longer term alternative. So having the no build in place for the shorter term would give us an opportunity to put together a longer term solution that checks all the boxes and makes sense. So the longer term solution is represented by scenario 6, which I shared previously, which would be a regional interagency transit pass. So the reason this came up as the preferred solution is it represents a practical and implementable solution for all agencies. It had the fewest number of, gaps and pitfalls between the 3. It responds well to agency-specific concerns and needs, and could potentially be the most effective for usability across Hampton Roads, based on the fact that we want to maintain autonomy between the 3 different agencies, and also understanding how riders currently use the system. So I can get into some details about how this interagency regional transit pass could work. So what is the pass? So this would be a brand new type of fare product offered region-wide. Currently, each separate agency offers their own types of passes, but until now, there isn't one regional pass that's offered that works all over. So this would be a brand new type of fare product. It could allow unlimited trips on all 3 agencies for a defined time period. So whether that be a day, a week, a month, it could be defined for a certain time period. And if you have the pass, you can make as many trips across any agency as the region as you want within that time period. You wouldn't have to worry about having a pass on WADA and then a pass on HRT, which just be the one pass. And then the available time periods, they could be determined collectively between the 3 agencies, depending on what the envisioned needs would be. So thinking about what value this pass would offer, it would provide one easy way to pay on all agencies. So that would make just interagency trip making easier, help people get over those hurdles about needing to pay separately on each bus that they ride. Also, the pass could be priced to allow a savings when compared with the alternative. So there would be some element of strategic pricing involved, but you could price it in a way so that people would have who ride multiple agencies routes regularly could have a savings as compared with needing to pay a separate fare every time they board a bus. So thinking more about the details of this interagency transit pass. So how could the interagency transit pass be administered? That's certainly something our project team looked at in detail. So first and foremost, this would require a new type of ongoing collaboration between the three agencies. So because this regional pass would affect transit fare payment and ridership on all agencies, it would require ongoing collaboration between HRT, Suffolk Transit, and WADA. So we envision some sort of working group or formal partnership to have to come into place so that they could manage this over time and do things like set pricing, think about revenue distribution, evaluate the performance of the pass product, et cetera, et cetera. In terms of how the pass would be administered, even though there would be that partnership set up to kind of guide its management, the vision is that it would be HRT that could actually administer and offer the pass. The reason being is that currently any interagency trip that's made in the Hampton Roads region touches HRT. HRT has got to be a part of that. Right now, there are no interface points between WADA and Suffolk Transit separately. So even if you wanted to make a transit trip between Suffolk and Williamsburg, you'd still have to ride HRT in between. So because of that factor, because of the fact that every interagency trip is an HRT trip, essentially, it would make the most sense for HRT to actually administer the pass. So that's another thing that we imagined as a project team. Moving forward, what would the pass look like? How could it be made available? So the pass could be electronic. It would be offered, if it's being administered by HRT, then it would be offered by HRT's app and its smart card. So that's the way you would use that. It would be basically loaded onto the electronic systems fare payment systems that HRT offers. How could it be purchased? So passes could be purchased electronically, region-wide via the HRT app. So even if you are a Suffolk or a WADA regular rider, you could still download the HRT app to purchase that electronically that way and use it on your app or on a smart card if you have one. Or if you use cash, passes could be purchased in the same way that HRT passes are currently purchased in their service zone, which would be at their retail vendor locations. In addition, WADA and Suffolk Transit have their own pass sales centers where they accept cash payments. So this pass would have to become available for sale at those locations as well. Throughout the course of this, we noted some kind of, gaps or challenges or further considerations that we need to take into account before implementing this. And one of them is noted right here, really, in the fact that any place that WADA and Suffolk sells their current passes, they would need to start providing this regional pass as well to accommodate cash payments. They currently only sell their own agency's passes. They don't sell HRT passes. So it would just be something that the three agencies would have to coordinate on and come up with a solution on how to make that work.
Andrew, I apologize for interrupting. Do you think we could summarize so that we can have enough opportunity for discussion from our RTAP?
Oh, certainly. Yeah, sure. Let me get through the rest. I'll be super quick.
Thank you.
And then just really quickly, the pass would be electronic only, no paper passes. How would they use the regional pass? So really, they'd purchase the pass, like I just said, but when boarding an HRT vehicle, a rider would use the phone app. They would board it just like they would any other and use any other HRT passes. They board the bus there. They'd use their phone, tap it, use their smart card and tap it. The difference would be on Suffolk Transit or WADA. In that case, they would need to inform the driver that they have this pass, and then the driver would have a handheld reader and they'd scan the pass that way. Thinking about the preferred alternative, how revenue would be managed as redistributed, that goes more into how the pass is administered. So we have some thoughts about that too. They're detailed, so if we have any questions, let me know. And then, just thinking about required technology. So we did an assessment of the current technology landscape to try to figure out what would be needed to advance pass administration like this. So just updates to the HRT mobile app smart card system to accommodate that pass, and distributing handheld readers to the different agencies so that they could scan these passes when people board buses, and then just better systems for tracking and performance monitoring of the system, and also training folks riders and drivers how to use these. And then just some thoughts about how to further simplify regional transit trip making. These would be related strategies to improving fare payment systems. Again, we can get into those details if you like. I know we're low on time. And yeah, that's about it. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions you might have. If you want to focus on anything as I flew over, let me know. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Questions, comments, thoughts? Janet, yes.
Hi. We had a paratransit advisory committee meeting maybe about 2 weeks ago, and this touched on a very sensitive topic because some people that were there were talking about they couldn't accept jobs because there was no continuity or connection from one city to the other. So have you put into thought maybe notifying the corporations as part of a hiring plan to make this announcement? This way, this would increase their talent pool, and maybe that could assist us as well.
I think that's a great idea. And I think that's something that goes on that last slide I just skipped over. Like, even if you put a seamless fare system in place, there are other factors involved in helping to improve the interagency trip making landscape, period. And one of those is better information out there, right? So I think that while working on this longer term solution, something that the 3-agency partnership would have to take on would be that informational component, how to get the word out, how to educate riders and educate people in general who might benefit from this, that something like this exists. And I think the idea of having a partnership with employers is a great idea. Thank you.
Any other comments? So yes, Mr. Godolio-Trosky.
Thank you. One thing that struck me as you were walking through the various alternatives and trying to go to looking at how to get to a seamless regional pass is time. Time is the enemy, because with the distances that have to be traversed, making the transitions from one system to another, you could conceivably take yourself far enough away that you couldn't get back the same day. And so that takes this out of consideration for employment purposes, unless people are clever enough to arrange housing for work during the work week and go home on the weekends. Or if we have a backbone high-speed interconnection mode of transportation, so that what you're really doing is offloading for the last mile or the last 5 miles to your destination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a really good point. Highlighting the need for better transfer points, linkage points between the 3 agencies, and also better integration of the 3 different agencies' timetables. Those are kind of separate but related key aspects of improving the interagency trip making experience. We've been talking about the fares, and improving the fare structure and making fare payment easier is one thing, but you're right. You identified the fact that, well, that's nice that you can pay a fare easily across the 3 agencies, but if I don't have a bus that takes me where I need to go, what's the point? So I had a list. I flew over it, but I had a list on the final page, and we're including this as a part of our report, just identifying strategies, moving beyond fare payment to help improve interagency trip making in general. And 2 of those would be improved transfer opportunities between the 3 agencies, as well as better timetable structuring, and thinking more about service spans, things like that.
So Andrew, I'd like to go back to one of your initial slides and maybe pose a question to the RTAP members. So Andrew showed you that right now, I believe about 0.5% of riders are actually transferring between the 3 transit systems. Okay, so if you pause a second and you think of where jobs are occurring in our region. And Greg's team looks at forecasting where employment's going to happen and where housing is going to happen. And Mayor, I think about people in your city in Portsmouth that need to get to jobs in Suffolk and need to get to jobs in Isle of Wight County, or people who need to move from the peninsula to jobs on the south side, or vice versa. Keep in mind, our transit systems can only go where they're funded to go. Okay, so the fact that I think this chart says a lot, only half of 1% are transferring between the systems is, and Andrew wasn't doing this, but it's easy for a person not as close as Andrew is to this statistics to look at this and say, well, there's not a need. I think we would counter is there's a huge unmet need. We just don't have the service for those transfers to be happening. Any thoughts about that, Mayor, or others?
Well, Bob, I think you're absolutely on track with that. And so that's one of the challenges that we all face. Really identify, but more importantly, to, as you said, we can only have the routes we pay for. Gotta somehow, we discussed that in the region, how we can get the ridership up, service more of our citizens throughout.
Yeah, Greg, every year I think of what every 5 years and you do that analysis, right? That growth is shifting where? To the southwest, right? It's Suffolk, it's Isle of Wight, it's that whole corridor there. And I think about people trying to get to those jobs. And I know Suffolk, you're looking at how you best service that. And Matt, up in the peninsula, you've got some pretty big greenfield development sites that are available. So anyway, that really spoke to me, Andrew, about maybe that's an investment point we need to be thinking about as a region. But and any other thoughts or comments?
Yeah, I have a comment from DRPT. I guess my question is, between the no build and implementation phase of this, to your point, needs to be more interagency connectivity and more trips available. So like, what is the breaking point, and has your analysis identified like the break-even point of when it will, when enough trips and connections will have been made available to make this investment, or to try to, I mean, this is like kind of putting the cart before the horse of like, how do we pay for fares when, to your point, like there aren't enough fares even to be paid for because people can't transfer. So what is the break-even point?
Sure. I'll let WADA, HRT, and Suffolk join in it if they have any other thoughts about this. But from what we've talked about as a project team, it's not like we're waiting for a break-even point between those two phases. It's more like having the first phase give us time to get everything in order and in place to make sure that whatever's rolled out is effective. I identified various technological gaps that currently existed, or there's some, capital implementation associated with that. So collaborating to make sure all of that gets taken care of is necessary before you could just jump in and say, okay, regional transit pass time. So as a project team, we haven't discussed waiting until it's necessary. It's more like it gives us time to collaborate and put together something that is effective and is implementable. So yeah, that's.
I think I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Jumped right in. Sorry about that. I think we're also at a place where there's more data we need to get in a way on this. So there's a few things. The Tidewater Breeze, did I get that right?
Tidewater Current.
Tidewater Current.
Yeah, that's right. Close.
There was I was very close. It's supposed to start in a month.
Mm-hmm.
Less than that.
April 20th.
That's right. And I was just looking up, that is going to enable, the trip start, I think, in Harrisonburg, but it's going to go from Williamsburg to Norfolk to the oceanfront or the convention center. The ticket is considerably more than any pass we would have here. And it takes 2 hours to go from Williamsburg to Virginia Beach. So I think at least out of the timetable I just saw. So I think that speaks to some of what we're talking about before, the length of time it takes to make these trips. And so recognizing that likely someone is not going to get on from WADA and go to the oceanfront on a daily basis for work, but where may they go? We're going to do another O&D in the next year or so, origin and destination study, so to better understand what trips people are making, and what are the strategic points we could look to improve on. We also have a wide range of technology right now. HRT is in the process of implementing Go Mobile, moving to a smart card or smartphone-based system that will enable us to have more flexibility with fares and fare capping and other pieces, but we're kind of at that launch point. Others in that group are paper-based. And so we're talking about a wide variety of things that would need to happen. Not to say that this isn't something we should look at, but I don't know if it's the fare itself that's keeping people from making more of these trips or understanding where they're going. We offer trips to Suffolk Amazon. We have trips to the Newport News Shipbuilding that start in Gloucester, Isle of Wight, or will be starting in Gloucester and come from Isle of Wight. So we are providing smaller linkages to places of employment and where residents are. But at the same time, I think it's later on the agenda, but when you take a look at this map of the frequency we have within our own district, there's a lot of work we still need to do, and I'll be talking about that in a little bit. But it's beefing up the frequency and level of service within each of our own respective jurisdictions. And I think then looking at the key points, whether it's Lee Hall or Victory Crossing for WADA and Suffolk respectively, to think about how can we be smart with encouraging connections where people are most likely to make them, unless perhaps on a system-wide implementation as the next step.
Yeah. And we're going to run out of time to get to this today, but Karen, to your point, if you take a look at this transit frequency map that Matt has shared with you before and is delving into, it really makes that point exactly. And that goes back to my comment about intentionally investing in those connections between the systems. So everything in red, the dark red on here, that's 60 to 90 minutes you're waiting for a bus. Okay, so let's just pause there, right? And then let's go back to what you showed us, Andrew, how many people are transferring. I think the map that Matt has put together illustrates the why, right? It's to your point, you just can't wait that long, right? And then Mark, to your point, and it's a big region, you got to move around, right? But if you get a chance, take a look at this. There's a big map out front that Matt has for you as well. But the light blue shows you where the 15-minute service is, right? We need more of that map to be blue, right? To be able to, and at our next RTAP meeting, I'm pumping you up here, Matt. Matt's gonna be looking at these frequencies in relation to employment, in relation to underrepresented communities, in relation to other important activity centers. And I think it's going to start to show where we have some real needs. And again, back to my comment, our transit agencies can only go where they're funded and supported to go. And that starts to create, opportunities for this group to be a voice about how we start to strategically improve that. So. Andrew, anything else before we move on?
I don't think so. No, I think.
I really appreciate what would the.
Bob, I'd like to jump in on this.
Yeah, please.
So listen, WADA's only got one transfer point with HRT. Suffolk has 3 now, and we'll have 4 in the near future. So to that slide there, that really is a powerful slide because it's just not a huge number. But I'll tell you, if you're one of the 72 people who makes that transfer at Lee Hall from HRT to WADA daily, that's pretty important. So I think this has been a great exercise for us. I think it's something we do want to strive for. I'll tell you though, when it comes down at the end of the day, though I serve at the pleasure of my board, if I've got to field new technology, as it is, those bus operators already look like they're running a NASA operations center on that bus. So I think there's a simpler way we can do it, just to try to make it, even if it's just a visual look, but the interoperability between the technology of transit agencies is, I think, the greatest hurdle to make it seamless. Okay, let's just take that word out of the equation. It doesn't work, but we do want to make it as easy as possible. And I think we can do that in the not too distant future with some just simple ways.
And I do want to say, Jeff Erliski staffs this, but our three transit systems do get together on a regular basis. And they talk about things like this. And Jeff, you convene that meeting. Thank you. But, so our transit agencies are always collaborating and talking to one another about, how to move forward within the resources that they have. So thank you all. Andrew, I feel like we could talk about this all day, but I really appreciate your briefing and your analysis.
Yeah,
So
no
thank
problem.
you.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
All right. I know HRT has a series of items that they're going to update us on. Amy, I think you're up first. So we're going to start off with the HRT on-demand rideshare service.
Don't worry, it'll be brief. We'll make up some time. All right. So just a very high level overview of our microtransit, which we call on demand. So you'll hear them used interchangeably. HRT just received our third state grant under the TRIP program for the microtransit on demand service. This project is to continue service in one current HRT zone, and we started into new zones. Those three zones are Newport News. So Newport News was one of the first ones that started this program back in 2022 when we did our pilot program. And just this February, we started with Hampton and Chesapeake. This is where customers use an app-based program to book rideshare rides. And we do use a third-party provider to operate this service. Our hours of operation, Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Saturday and Sunday, 7 to 8. This is $2 per person per trip. It's the same as our bus fare. And we do offer free fare for paratransit certified customers and those that hold the Student Freedom Pass. Our current fleet, we have 3 vehicles in Chesapeake, 3 in Hampton, and 9 are in Newport News. When we initially started a few years ago, we had 6 in Newport News. We have since expanded that to 9 just because of the ridership that we see there. This is our Newport News zone. This is the largest zone. This is 20 square miles. We have a number of points of interest here: Patrick Henry Mall, Riverside Hospital, the Denby Community Center. And we are no longer servicing the airport. I should have pulled that bullet off, but we did not see the ridership at the airport. So we did eliminate that, and we added some multifamily homes in that zone. We do have connections to 6 of our HRT bus routes. And this past month in February, even though it was a short month and we had weather challenges, we still saw just under 7,000 trips in that month. Now on to our new zones, the Chesapeake zone. This is 11 square miles. We have the points of interest, Summit Point, for those that have not been to Chesapeake in recent years. That has grown substantially there in that area, so I highly recommend you go visit. We also have Chesapeake Regional Medical Center, City Hall, Hanbury Village, and Hillcrest Parkway, the Walmart and Target out that way. This has connections to 2 HRT fixed routes. And our first month of full service was about 200 passengers. Like I said, that was a short month, and we did have a lot of weather issues. We do expect to see this ridership increase in Chesapeake. We do have a number of parks and jobs that the youth, when they come out of school, they're definitely going to be going to some of these locations to get summer jobs. So we should see that increasing over the coming months. And lastly, we have our Hampton zone. This is 9 square miles. This has a lot of larger points of interest. This has the Centera Careplex, Boo Williams Sportsplex, Coliseum Crossing, the Aquaplex, the Convention Center there in Hampton. There's a lot of places that people are moving there. We did see the ridership kick off pretty quickly here This has connections to 2 HRT bus routes. Like I said, in February, we had about 400 passengers. We do know that there's a number of people here that also use the service in our Newport News zone. So not surprising to see double the ridership that Chesapeake had in this particular zone. Like I said, it's very high level, just kind of giving you guys the details on our first month of service here. If you have any questions, you can certainly ask them now, or you can visit our website.
All right, any questions for Amy on the on-demand service? Anybody try it yet? Come on.
Hey, Amy, what sort of customers are you getting for the on-demand? Are they people trying to get to work, trying to get to leisure? What is it looking like?
All of that. We have noticed, particularly in Newport News, we've had that. This is our 4th year of service in that particular zone. So very well established. We see our commuters, we see those going to work, particular stores, and we do see a high percentage of students going to school there in Newport News. So we see a variety of folks using that service there. We haven't established quite enough in Chesapeake and Hampton to make those determinations, but I'm thinking we're going to see something similar.
Matt?
Yeah, Amy, what was the purpose behind it? Was it to replace an existing low ridership fixed route, or just cover new areas you didn't cover to begin with? And if the latter, or rather if the former, so replace a fixed route with low ridership, did you find that the demand increase, really to save money on the big bus? Did you find that demand actually increased such that you're now having to put in more vehicles into system and then more operators, et cetera?
Sure. So to answer your question, both. So when we initially launched the pilot, there was one zone in Newport News and one in Virginia Beach. The one in Virginia Beach was to see how that would fare against a low ridership fixed route. And Newport News was and does serve areas that we can't necessarily get fixed routes into, narrow streets, things like that. So we saw in Virginia Beach, we definitely had increased ridership there. As far as a comparison, I think we're still working on that part with the fixed route ridership. And Virginia Beach was still growing, so they just ended that service at the beginning of January, thinking it'll probably come back at some point. We saw about 4,000 trips a month there in Virginia Beach. So we did see a good increase of ridership there. And like I said, Newport News was to fill that void where there was no fixed route service. So it's very popular up there. Mm-hmm.
All right, well, thank you, Amy. Appreciate it. Noelle, I believe you're up next for a couple of quick updates.
I don't have a PowerPoint, so I'm going to sit right here if that's okay with you.
That is perfect.
Wonderful. First, I really want to thank RTAP and the TPO and the PDC for your continued advocacy efforts during the last General Assembly session, which I'm going to brief you on in a minute. And it is a campaign. It really is. It feels like a campaign. We had, Bob reached out to you and you delivered. We had so many letters of support from individual members of RTAP, so many of the organizations that are represented, and it really goes a long way. And as Mindy can tell you, with Access Point, she helps us in Richmond. It's one thing for me to be sitting there beating the drum, or for Mindy, or even Bob. Bob's up there all the time, as much as any of us, if you didn't know that. And I want to give Bob a round of applause for that. Thank you, Bob. It means so much more to hear from the businesses and the individuals who are impacted by what we're asking for. So thank you for that. I do want to start with DC though, because right when Richmond ends up, finishes for transit, we go right into DC advocacy. I just got back from DC last week. I took a couple of board members up. We are asking for some community project funding requests in the fiscal year 2027 Transportation and Housing Urban Development Appropriations Bill. We're asking, as right now, security, safety, and cleanliness are really first and foremost on the administration's mind. We thought we would say, okay, well, we have a security request. Put your money where your mouth is. We requested $1.125 million, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it goes a long way in helping us procure these mobile telescoping security units. You may have seen these at 7-Elevens, Walmart parking lots. They've got a blue light, a solar panel. Our safety fleet is very small but very nimble, and this helps expand our reach by allowing, you can actually communicate real time through these these telescoping units. Really popular program. We got a lot of good feedback in DC. Right now, our delegation is hierarching what they've been asked for versus what they can request at this committee level. So I will send out via Bob some more details on this. And if you have the bandwidth to just send a quick email to the congressional delegation saying, if you support these efforts, that could help them see us as a priority. The other thing we were visiting them on was the Surface Transportation Reauthorization Bill expires this September. And this is a 5-year authorization bill that sets funding levels for highways and bridges and transit. And our message to the delegation was, let's take the IIJA, the Infrastructure Jobs Act levels, and make those be baseline. Don't go backwards. And with particular regard to the Bus and Bus Facilities Program, WADA and Suffolk and HRT, we're bus companies. Our bread and butter is with our buses. And right now, the baseline is $2.2 billion for that program that funds buses and new bus facilities. And we don't want to see that cut because, it needs to grow and it does not need to be cut. So we were, ringing that bell, the 2.2 billion. And then there's also some discussion on streamlining certain programs, and I can send all of this to Bob so I don't belabor it. I can get real passionate and get into the nitty-gritty on some of these programmatic requests. If anybody has any questions about the DC advocacy, I'm happy to answer them now. If not, I'll go into Richmond. Okay, so there were a lot of bills this session that were going to increase not only funding for Northern Virginia and WMATA, but for statewide transit. There was a concerted effort among the transit properties in Virginia. We worked with the Virginia Transit Association to get some of these bills to grow legs. And unfortunately, all of the individual bills that were introduced were tabled to 2027. Some of these would have fully funded Metro, would have given HRT, WADA, and Suffolk bump ups. So direction was focused on the budget when those bills got tabled. So right now, as you know, there is no budget. The General Assembly adjourned sine die without one, and there will be a reconvened session later in April to work out the differences between what the House and the Senate included in their respective budget reports. The House budget did not include funding for WMATA, and it did not include any statewide funding for transit, but it did include funding to help support the HJ 28, which was a study resolution that was put forth by Delegate Askew that would look at sustained funding for WADA, Suffolk, and HRT. So the study piece passed. The House and Senate both passed it, but the funding is in limbo. And as Bob can share with you, a lot of this work, most of this work is going to have to be taken up at this organizational level. And Bob's got a tight budget, so we really need to make sure that we get funding for HJ 28 in the budget. So that's another advocacy piece that I can send Bob's way. Going back to the budget reports, the Senate version of the budget did include funding for WMATA. And it did include a $15.8 million transit bump up for the rest of the state. It was very complicated. It has to do with data center taxes. So not real popular right now in Richmond. Not sure where it's all going to shake out in the end. But there was a slight bump up. I don't know what it would have meant for WADA and Suffolk, but HRT would have gotten about another $1 million in operating and capital funding. So. We're favorable of the Senate version, but we are more favorable of the House version because it has that money for HJ 28. A little bit more about HJ 28. It will establish a 13-member joint subcommittee for a 2-year study for long-term sustainable and dedicated operations and capital funding with cost containment controls. Because when we go to Richmond and ask for money, we want to be able to say we took care of our own house first. And we've already identified some of those cost avoidance, cost containment, and cost cutting efforts at HRT through a sustainability study we did with some consultants that just got released last week. That was reported to our full board last Thursday. An executive summary was presented. The full report will be released later this week. And that is also something I will ask Bob to forward to RTAP. It's about a 30-page report. There's a nice executive summary. It outlines what we've been saying all along. There's a need for additional funding in Hampton Roads. It's HRT specific. We're looking at a need of $17 to $20 million over a fiscal year 28 to fiscal year 35. But all of that will be released later this week. Happy to answer any questions anyone has. I just gave you a lot.
So first off, thank you, Noelle. So one thing I just wanted to mention that's challenging and for everyone, but particularly for our transit agencies right now. So without a state budget, we have local governments doing local budgets, not knowing what's committed from the state. Okay, so now think about your 3 transit agencies going in and asking for funding from local governments when they're doing their budgets. We're in the same position as the regional organizations. You know, local governments are forced to make estimates in terms of what they're budgeting for revenues. And Dr. Ross Hammond and Mayor Glover, I know this is what you're right in the middle of right now. So anyway, it does create a very challenging situation for everyone.
Very.
So
Very
thank you, Noelle. I really appreciate that briefing. Karen, I think you're going to wrap it up from HRT on a couple of efforts. Sorry, our microphones are a little.
Well, I think it might be user error because I think I'm the only one that's done that more than once. So yes, just to kind of let y'all know some of our planning efforts in a couple of fronts. The first is we are wrapping up our public outreach for the system optimization plan this week. By the time we're done, we'll have had 21 pop-up or open house events. This week we are basically taking the open house that we've been doing in the evenings to 3 of our transfer centers in Hampton, Newport News, and Norfolk. Where those 3 cities, if the SOP moves forward, would see the most changes. We have an online survey we're asking folks to take. I know the TPO has been good about putting that out on social media. I can also make sure we email to each of y'all the QR code and the website where that information on the SOP is. We have a story map as well as a link to the survey itself. We have received mostly positive feedback on wanting to optimize our system. There's a few prongs of that optimization. One, when you take a look at this map, that's very handy for the optimization study. The 3 light colored lines that you see, it's the 112, the 114 on this in Hampton and Newport News. And then the other lighter color one is one that runs from the oceanfront to downtown Norfolk. That's the Route 20. Those are operating at 15-minute service in the peak. We have funding through RTS, RTAP for 10 more, but we lack the operators to run it. At a system right now, we're down about 40 operators. Without making adjustments, we would need 40 more to implement all 10 of those routes. So we are looking at, the SOP is based on reducing low-performing service and reallocating our resources, both bus and human, to those 10 routes, and some other adjustments that we're making with streamlining and some other alignment adjustments. And then microtransit would be used where routes are being eliminated to provide mobility, but at a more, but with a mode that better meets the demand that's present in those locations. One thing that's unique about the service, microtransit service, and Amy talked about, that's all been funded to date by TRIP state grants. And so it's very dependent on the jurisdiction sponsoring those TRIP grants. to make the local match. And if that's not something they're interested in, they don't go forward, like the Virginia Beach zone did not move ahead. What we're looking at within the SOP is making microtransit in specific locations part of the overall system that we operate. So it wouldn't be as dependent on the match. The cities pay into as you mentioned, very aptly, pay into the system overall. So that's one of the adjustments we would look at over time. But really, I would love to see this map reflect the remaining 10 lines that we would have 15-minute service on to really provide that backbone of service. That's the goal with the state funding that we received in 2020 and our goal with making adjustments to have the operators available. As I mentioned, we're finishing public outreach this week, and then we will be providing feedback to our commission on comments received and any adjustments we're going to make to the plan, and then hopefully have the commission adopted in May. That's our schedule. And to begin implementation, because it takes us a number of months to get prepared for a service change, we're looking at beginning in an incremental fashion in a year, May 27. Some of the feedback I think this body would be interested in that we've received so far is interest in having those 10 routes come online. Service to the airports that would be included as part of Route 9. That's come up as something people are interested in having us do, as well as, one of the challenges we have on an ongoing basis is coverage versus efficiency. Several of our routes go directly into medical centers or into shopping centers. To provide that straight, as much connection as we can. That takes up more time on our schedules. So having more efficient transit service means you stay on street. So there's a balance of that we're getting back in both comments and in application. So that's our big effort for the spring. And when you get that survey via email, we'd love you to take it and tell us any thoughts. You can do it by route specific or overall. The other element I wanted to note was we do tomorrow our responses to our request for proposals from consultants to do phase 2 of the Connecting Chesapeake study, which is looking at BRT from the I'm about to say Chesapeake General. That is not the name of it. Regional Medical Center in Chesapeake via Battlefield or the Greenbrier area. Those are kind of our two options up to downtown Norfolk and the DNTC, the transfer center there. So we hope to get to the May board for selection of that consultant. So after they come in tomorrow, we'll be going through the procurement process, and then hopefully by the summer, we'll have a notice to proceed and then a project schedule that I expect to take 12 to 18 months.
Right. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate that quick rundown of a lot of things going on at HRT. What I'd like to do due to the time issue is we're going to take Matt's regional transit frequency mapping. He'll be the first item on next month's agenda. So you move right to the front of the row there. But really encourage you to participate in that next meeting, because some of the analysis Matt's doing, I think, can really provide some great background for us. I did want to allow enough time for just the quick around the room. Remember our rules. If you have nothing to report, it's okay. You can pass. But if you have an item, if you could quickly mention it. I just have two real quick things. At each of your places, you're probably all getting tired of getting emails from me about this, but we are in our last month of our regional community survey. This is the regional survey for our regional strategic plan. This is the chance for residents it's a really quick survey. It allows you to use some play Monopoly money and use that money to identify what you feel are the most important issues in our region. If you haven't taken the survey yet, I know many of you have, but if you haven't, please take it. But my request for all of you, if you could all share this, if everybody in RTAP could get 5 more people to do the survey, right? We're closing in. Greg and I are trying to get 2,000 responses to this, and we're going to get there. Right. But we could use your help. So if you can keep pushing that. And then, Mayor, before I ask you, if you have any comment, I just wanted to mention one thing. Yesterday, I went to see the Norfolk Tides. I really, and some of you that know me well know I set a goal every year. How many times I'm going to ride the light rail, right? But if you go to the Tides, please don't drive downtown. Please use the light rail, experience it. I had a big smile on my face, HRT. It was full yesterday, and that was pretty neat to see. But it is just a fun experience. To be able to catch the light rail and take it to a baseball game. So it doesn't get better than that, Mayor.
No, it doesn't, sir. No,
Mayor,
just,
anything to share?
no, Bob, thank you. But just want to thank everyone for showing up today. This is very important work that we're doing. And thank you all for participating.
Pavitra? Wada?
Thanks, Bob. So just a quick update from our side as we look towards the opening of the Wada North Transit Center, excuse me, later this fall. We expect to have some public engagement sessions upcoming as well here, probably middle of April, that have to do with the rerouting associated with that opening. So we'll make sure to share that information with you all and let you know when those engagement sessions are going to take place.
Very good, and we'd be happy to push that out to the RTAP. Maria, anything to add?
Starting May 4th, we're starting 2 new transit routes. One from the Godwin Park and Ride to Windsor out in Isle of Wight. And then we're going to be starting one from the Godwin Park and Ride out to Portsmouth to Victory Crossing. So to form another connection to HRT with an even bigger hub. So that'll make 4 connections to HRT off of 4 routes. So we're trying to find ways to further connect and get people to be able to travel a little bit better. Isle of Wight, we've worked very closely with them for this bus route, so they're very excited. We're holding a launch event on the 4th out in Isle of Wight to kind of do a ribbon cutting. We were successful in getting smart scale applications for both of those to be able to purchase our vehicles. So we're really, really excited about that. And we are still moving forward with our bus shelter art project. We are having another one should be installed in the next couple weeks. So we're slowly working through the bus shelters to get that artwork up.
And thank you for working with us on that.
Absolutely.
So hopefully next meeting, we're going to have a graphic to show you. And after we do that with one of Maria's bus shelters, we'd love to partner with HRT and WADA as well. So thank you for that. Quan, anything to add? Janet? Laura? We'll go on down. Anything to add?
We
Joanne?
celebrate 85 years of serving in the Hampton Roads area this year. So we're excited.
Awesome. DRPT?
Just what has already been iterated by Ms. Kitness on the Virginia Breeze Tidewater Current. I'm very excited for this as we're serving regionally these communities near and dear to our hearts, and looking forward to everybody riding. So April 20th, mark your calendars for the Tidewater Current Virginia Breeze route. Thank you.
So I guess James Madison football fans are going to be happy come fall, right? And take the bus out to the game.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
HRT?
Just one last thing. As you are planning your summer team building exercises, maybe lunches with your team, I would encourage you to choose something that's on a bus route or a ferry or a light rail and get your team out there on transit. I did it last Friday, so it was great. I got my team out on a bus and a light rail, so thank you.
Just one thing real quick, there is a better way to get to Harbor Park to the Tides baseball games, and that's by ferry. I might be a little partial to ferry, but that's okay. But you can also take the ferry for free to baseball games from North Landing over to Harbor Park. So I highly recommend if you're closer to the Portsmouth side to take it. And you can take the Elizabeth River Trail to finish that trip.
Anything more, Mark?
Thank you for stealing part of my thunder. I also want to express appreciation to our colleagues who, during the Sail 250 presentation, did a little bit of needling about making sure that African-American businesses get their due, that the Elizabeth River Trail concerns for bicyclists and the people who use the trail recreationally don't get overlooked, and that people with disabilities do not get lost in the shuffle with this great celebration of our 250th birthday.
It's the importance of panels like this. You have a voice for your communities, and I appreciate everybody sharing that. Yes, going around, anybody else?
think that's right. Steve Jones, I'm with Naval Station Norfolk. Cell 50 was well presented there. I will just say that there's a, what's it called? Soccer Crew Classic that'll be at Slater Cutter Park during this event as well. So that gives some additional challenges because ships will be all over the place, a lot of them on naval stations, so we got to deal with the security aspect to get transit on the base to do that. So we're still working through that. I don't have an answer for that yet, but I think that was it. And Fleet Week will occur after this event. So right now it's still on the slate to occur. Last year it was canceled because we had it in October and we didn't have a budget. So we're trying to move it forward. It hadn't been finalized at this point because of world events in that regards, but that's the desire to do that.
Great. Thank you. Andrew, anything more?
All right, Bob, sorry to do this again, but Noelle actually gave me the idea. You can use this as a team building exercise. If you want us to come to your, I mean, we did it with Mary Kate and Civic, and did we not have a blast?
You did have a blast.
It's a fun exercise. So if you have in your organization, you're like, hey, we want to have some fun, talk about regional planning for the future, Bob or me or somebody even better will come and do this for you and your team. So that's it.
Very good. So you're telling them either complete the survey or Greg and Bob come talk with you endlessly with their own presentations.
I love it.
Stephanie, Mary Kay.
We are actually 30 years old this year, Civic Leadership Institute, and we are celebrating. Thank you. I've only been there for 3 of it, right, Sarah Jane? But we are celebrating our 30th anniversary on Thursday, May 21st. And by celebrating, we are having some members of the class of 1996. Sandra is one of the members of the class of 1996, our original class. And so we are celebrating them as well. So if you want to join us for the Founders Luncheon, it's Thursday, May 21st. So just let me know.
Thank you. Kendra?
Yes, thank you. If you are hearing my voice, whether in the room or virtually, you are cordially invited on April 25th to what is Celebrate Trails Day, but also the ribbon cutting and grand opening of the ERT's first ever Trailside headquarters. So we are so excited. The ribbon cutting starts promptly at 9:30 with our celebration, and then stick around for a Celebrate Trails Day block party until 1 o'clock. So that's Saturday, April 25th, and we're located in the Chelsea district, right on the trail. So thank you.
Awesome. Congrats. Anything? John? Dr. Ross Hammond?
We want to brag about our HRT staff, how well they're doing. And 3 of the 4 are still right over there. I want to give you all a hand clap for the work you've done.
Dr. Kay? Anything?
Hi, I would just like to introduce myself. My name is Ariana Foster. I'm a member of the Hampton Roads Gen Z Commission, and our mission is to inspire, inform, involve, and invest in Gen Z as we take lead in Hampton Roads. Transportation is a huge part of that, so it's really great to be in this room, to be a part of the conversation, and to hear all the amazing work that all of you are doing. So thank you for that, and I will be sharing the survey. So.
Thank you. Thank you. And welcome to the table. We're really so happy to have you here.
Yeah, and I'm Eric Makla, and I'm with the same organization as well.
Great. I want to be certain we have you on our mailing list. So if we can be certain we get your contact info. Okay. Fantastic. Peter?
I'll just say to the folks who are tracking that resolution for the next 2 years, the timing is impeccable. Here's why. University of Virginia's economic forecast for the Commonwealth shows 2026 flat, growth in 27, and growth even more in 28, which means more tax revenues to the Commonwealth.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Happy Monday. I hope everybody has a great week, and we really appreciate your continued engagement here at the RTAP. So